First of all, thanks all for joining today. I'll give you a brief customs update that kind of covers the import and export declaration requirements, as well as a brief overview of the goods vehicle movement service that will be in place as the UK exits the EU at the end of the year. I also have my colleague Joel Meller, who will also help me cover off a few of the bits today. So, firstly, we'll look at kind of an overarching bit of what's going to be happening. So for movements between GB and the EU, we'll be introducing border controls at the end of the transition period in stages, as Margaret's already alluded to. And that started with some controls from the 1st of January 2021 and moving to full controls for all goods from July the 1st, 2021. So those are the two kind of key dates. So first of all, from January 2021, most traders will be able to defer submitting information and payment of customs duties to HMRC for up to 6 months from the date of the import. And traders importing controlled goods, such as excise goods, will be expected to follow standard customs requirements. The requirements for safety and security, declarations on import or ENS, these will be waived for 6 months on imports, as Margaret's again already alluded to. And the UK will be joining the Common Transit Convention in its own right, and will be subject to the full requirements of this, as moving to that in stages won't be applicable, as it's an international agreement. What I'll do now is I'll go through initially the import requirements from January 2021, and then do the exports, and then my colleague Joel will take you through what will be required from July. So, moving on quickly. So, yep. So with regards to imports and import declaration requirements from January 2021 to July, traders bringing goods from the EU to GB will need to declare their goods to customs, and goods must be declared in advance of crossing if moving through a listed roll-on, roll-off port or location without an existing system. However, what we have done to facilitate this and facilitate that readiness is that traders moving non-controlled goods to GB will be able to declare their goods by making entry in their own records, also known as EIDR, Entrance in Declarants Records. And what is required of that is listed on gov.uk as well, as it's part of CFSP, Customs Rate Simplified Procedures, as a pre-existing way of making declarations. But then businesses would be required to keep a record of those imports and then submit that information via supplementary declaration within 6 months of that import, and pay those required duties via an approved duty deferment account. It's worth saying at that point that it is a rolling 6 months, so it's not that all those declarations made between January and July have to be made in one hit. It's a case of if you bring something in January, you have 6 months. Equally, if you brought stuff in June, you'd have 6 months from June. But worth being clear on that. However, there is an exception to this. So traders moving controlled goods, such as excise goods, will need to make a frontier declaration for controlled goods. And as again Margaret mentioned about the border operating model, there is an annex that describes what we mean when we say controlled goods, and there is a list of those. That declaration on the controlled goods can be either a full or simplified declaration, and that depends on the authorizations of that trader, or equally a trader could choose to use transit. If the goods are coming, if those controlled goods again are coming through a location without a system that would allow the trader to notify HMRC that the goods have been imported, the trader would need to manually arrive that declaration in HMRC systems. And if it's excise goods, that would include the Excise Movement and Control System, or EMCS as it's known. And that would all need to be done by the end of the following day after the physical crossing of the goods. So just very quick to recap what we won't be requiring. So we won't be requiring traders to submit safety and security declarations for imports for that 6 months, or requiring carriers to submit entry summary declarations. and there's a range of reasons for implementing those controls. For example, keeping the UK borders safe and secure, collecting the right customs, VAT and excise duties, and make sure that all the exports and imports will be treated equally. And with all of this stuff, there is more detail on gov.uk. So just to recap very quickly on that, standard goods can be declared into your own records with a supplementary declaration after 6 months. Controlled goods will need to be declared, and then there won't be any need for S&S declarations for 6 months. So what I'll do now is I will move on to exports from January. So on exports, declaration and the requirements on the declarations of these from January 2021 going to July 2021. Traders exporting goods from GB into EU will need to submit export declarations for all goods, and traders will be required to submit safety and security information, and this can be done via a combined export declaration or a standalone exit summary declaration. Again, if the goods aren't moving via, or if the goods are moving via a non-inventory linked location, the customs declaration will need to be submitted as arrived while the goods are still at the trader's premises, and then HMRC will notify the trader automatically of whether those goods have the permission to progress, or if they do need to be taken to a facility to be checked. If the goods are moving through a location with an existing inventory system, the standard rest of world export model will be followed, which should be familiar to those trading with the rest of world. And for excise goods or goods moving under duty suspense only, if moving the goods through a location that does have a system to automatically, does not have a system to automatically communicate to HMRC that the goods have left the country, the trader would need to provide proof to HMRC that those goods have indeed left and exited the UK. If you're exporting goods by post, for more information on that, please go to gov.uk. And just like before, with regards to imports, further details on exporting can also be found on gov.uk. What I will do now is I shall pass to my colleague Joel, who will now cover the detail for from July. So over to you, Joel.